Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. So far, the market is definitely holding up pretty well. We have a lot of these stocks at some nice overbought levels, Tom, looking at a lot of these tech stocks. At the same time, we have the cannabis stocks flying high, flying pretty high this morning. SNDL, Tilray, CGC, stocks like that, they are just booming to the upside, and it's set to be a pretty good day so far.
Yeah, I'm glad to see finally some good legislation maybe going through Congress here. I know that's the main thing pushing these marijuana stocks up. So I'm glad to see that they're finally talking about legalizing it. I know it's been a long time, Mike, and these stocks have continued to just get beaten down as this legalization process started to slow down. But I'm glad to see that there's now legislation coming across the board, and hopefully they vote it into action because it'll really help these stocks. Obviously, I think it'll help the U.S. stocks even a little bit more. I know my favorite one is PLNHF. And Mike, didn't you have a ticker for a pretty good U.S. company the other day?
Well, MSOS is just an ETF, so it's just like a mix of them, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, so MSOS, and there is a few other U.S. companies out there, but MSOS will probably be a really good mix, Mike. Like looking at it on the 1 year daily, it's beaten down just like the rest of the marijuana stocks have been, and it's starting to go back on the uptrend. So looks pretty good to me so far, but yeah, these marijuana stocks are definitely leading the way today, Mike. Like you said, Tilray is up 16%. CGC is opening at 7%. This is just insane to see. I know everybody has been looking at SNDL ever since the GameStop hype, and that one's up 13% today. So that's pretty big.
Wow. Yeah, good stuff though, and with these cannabis stocks, like sometimes they'll just 800, they'll have 800% returns in a couple months, but then besides that, it's normally just a lot of destruction and downtrend and bad stuff. So they're running right now. They have the hype, just like you said, Tom. We have hype, but there's a reason behind it. The House is voting next week, so that's big. Things are definitely updating and progressing in this space. And at the same time, it's really good for their stocks. And these are hype stocks too. So we're definitely set for a volatile and interesting next couple of weeks with these MJ stocks.
Yeah, we definitely are. Hopefully they continue to get higher and higher. That would obviously be the best case scenario here. And a lot of volume has started coming in the past couple of days. So hopefully we continue to see this buying come through. Looks like so far today to open, Mike, CGC initially fell off, but now it's coming back up into the green, which is looking pretty good here. But kind of getting into my watch list and looking at some other plays today, looks like some of these other growth plays are doing pretty good. I see ChargePoint is starting to really break out today, which looks pretty awesome in my opinion, along with Twitter. Twitter's looking pretty good to the upside, along with Chewy. Seems like Facebook is starting to break out too. So we're seeing some pretty good moves, Mike, out of some pretty nice stocks this morning. Even Unity is starting to blast off.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, a lot of stocks are looking pretty good. I didn't even see ChargePoint until you mentioned it, but that one's definitely breaking out.
Yeah, it's coming back up in a big way. I know that some of these charging companies have been doing pretty well lately, like ChargePoint and then Blnk. Looks like Blnk isn't really doing anything today, but yeah, I mean, a lot of stocks are climbing up my watch list today. Facebook was another one, Mike, that I really was keeping my eye on because they've been continually holding this 220 support. And I think it looks pretty good here in the short term, especially today. Maybe if we break above 222, we'll be able to see a pretty nice move out of Facebook. And I will say it's getting a lot of momentum right now. And we're only about 10 cents away from that high there. Actually, we just broke out. So Facebook's definitely getting that movement with it, Mike. So I like that these social media companies are moving today. Even DWAC's moving. So I'm glad to see all these companies starting to roar back to life. But I will say this has been a really good week so far, Mike, especially for a lot of these beaten down companies.
Oh, it's been awesome, Tom, especially for the big tech stocks like Apple, Tesla, a lot of ones like that, even Facebook. It's been very, very, very good. And I love to see this. Stocks are back, but at the same time, I definitely want to throw a warning out there, guys. These stocks are overbought right now. A lot of them are great companies. Their stocks are pretty awesome, but you can't be buying multi-trillion-dollar companies when they're up 20% in 5 days.
Yeah, definitely. And looking at Apple alone, Mike, they're almost actually back up to that all-time high. They're only about, it looks like they're about $7 to $10 away. So that's definitely pretty big to see there. It looks like right around $10 would put them at a new all-time high. So they're not too far away. And I'm with you. You know, we have to see a slowdown eventually. It actually looks like Apple so far today, Mike, isn't getting the type of blast off that some of these other stocks are getting. So maybe we will start to see a pullback here. I know Apple had that cool announcement yesterday where they announced you could get into like a monthly payment plan for their iPhones, which is nice. I know that they've already had some plans like that and other companies have too, but it's always good to see them trying to boost their revenue any ways possible.
Yeah, of course, of course. Alrighty, so on a different note, Tom, I was looking at Neo a little bit before open, and it's looking pretty tough. It's down almost 9% today. I know they reported earnings, but wow, I mean, this is a decent sized move.
Yeah, it really is. But I will say, Mike, I'm honestly not surprised. You know, what have we been seeing lately with earnings with some of these EV plays? Like, I'll go on the 1 hour chart here and let's go look at like Rivian and check them out. You can see they reported earnings last week or a couple weeks ago, and they had some pretty nasty moves heading into that earnings report. They did end up recovering with the growth stocks a couple weeks later, but initially they fell off in a pretty big way. Same thing with Lucid. You can see Lucid had a bigger move to the downside, and both of these companies reported pretty bad production numbers, Mike. I wasn't able to fully read into Neos yet, but I'm sure it didn't go the best. You know, the stock is definitely not performing well, and their EPS obviously didn't wow investors. So looking at it, it's going to be kind of crazy. I know this report did come out a little late last night though, so it made it a little tough.
Yeah, true that. Alrighty, so good stuff there. Looking back at some of these MJ stocks, like SNDL specifically, just like you said, Tom, there's a lot of hype with SNDL. A lot of the retail traders love this one. It's up 7% today, but it definitely sold off a decent amount since open. Now, I want to say this, and I cannot stress this enough. This one is going to be extremely volatile, and it's going to be more volatile than basically any other stock in the market right now, and the market is anticipating that. Check this out, Tom. The implied volatility on SNDL is 264%. To put that into perspective, if we look at something as volatile as AMC's implied volatility is only 140%. So like SNDL, like basically whatever other stock you look at, SNDL will be more volatile. So keep that in mind. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. Like, it's bad because, you know, you might sell at 81 cents and it might drop down to 70 cents and it might go up to $2 over the course of a day or two. But then again, you know, it can be good because when it runs, it normally really runs.
Yeah, definitely. It can get those explosive moves. And, you know, the implied volatility is showing that the market is expecting some pretty big moves here, whether it's to the upside or the downside. But yeah, so far today, Mike, at open, it's definitely pulling back in a pretty big way. I hate to see that. I will say, though, it is getting down around support around 80 cents. And then I have support here around anywhere from pretty much 77 cents to 78 cents on the chart. So definitely keep that in mind. But you're right, Mike. It's going to be very, very volatile. It'll probably be a tough one to trade. Personally, I'd rather get into things like CGC or Tilray or PLNHF or MSOS, like Mike mentioned earlier. I think those are better ways to go. But hey, I'll take it. If SNDL wants to move up, it can definitely make for some nice intraday action. And kind of talking about AMC, Mike, it's having a pretty good open so far. I will say it's holding that $20 support pretty well this morning, and it's starting to blast up in a big way. So maybe we'll start to see some renewed momentum here. I know yesterday AMC was pretty flat, so maybe today we'll start to see some nice action again.
Yeah, there we go. Even GME's running up, Tom. GME is just under that 150 resistance, and yeah, I don't know what's going on with these two, but they're definitely moving.
Yeah, that's a big level there. Let's go. Maybe we'll see a nice breakout. And guys, let us know in the comments if you guys still like these stocks. I know a lot of people are still playing them whenever they're running like this. So definitely keep it on the radar. If it breaks above 150 with some momentum, who knows? You know, we've seen GameStop have some pretty explosive things happen. Same thing with AMC. I will say, though, be careful. Like we talked about, the implied volatilities are pretty high, but I'm glad to see them moving up. And Mike, one other sector today that's just straight up exploding is these airlines. Like look at AAL, DAL, LUV. they are moving up in a great way. I know Southwest had a pretty nice article come out on CNBC last night where they announced their Wanna Getaway Plus package, which is like a new economy deal that they're doing, which is slightly above the cheapest deals. So seems pretty good. It offers like same day cancellation, but either way, they're trying to boost their revenue here. And I think the airlines are liking that. You know, LUV's moving up. We have AAL on the rise, and seems like across the board, they're all doing pretty well after this news drop.
Yeah, that's interesting and good catch there, Tom. You know, like they're definitely moving in a pretty nice way. I know that they have definitely been struggling quite a bit over the past couple of months. One, with just a lot of stocks selling off, but also two, with rising oil prices and then tensions around the world. So it's nice to see them recovering.
Yeah, it is. And like in American's case, along with Delta and a couple others, you can see like on the chart here, they've been consolidating for like 1, 2, 3, 4, almost like 6 or 8 days in a row. Like it's been a while. They've just been sitting here in this little range. Like Delta is trying to break out above $38. We have American Airlines here trying to break above 17. So there's definitely some big resistances here on these stocks. And who knows, maybe if they keep running this morning, we'll see some nice breakouts.
There we go. Alrighty, so checking back in on some other stocks. Let me just see. I was trying to find a couple breakout plays, Tom. Right now I have Facebook leading my watch list, and it looks like you kind of beat me to that one, but it's looking really good.
Yeah, it's doing great so far. It just continues to hold up here. It broke that pre-market high of 222, which was pretty defined. So we're definitely seeing Facebook move back, Mike. And look at Facebook on the 1-year daily chart. I really like the way it's roaring back to life. It's coming right back above this 220 resistance like I talked about, and it held its ground very strong here the past couple days. So I like this setup, Mike. It looks pretty bullish. Personally, I think we could see Facebook have a pretty nice uptrend, at least up to around $230. I think that would make for a pretty safe move. We're about 6 points away from that now. I'm not sure we'll get there today, but hey, I think that 230 is a pretty good target to look for.
Yep, we shall see. Either way, it's looking good. So let's see. I mean, Tom, do you see any notable movers or any specific setups you're watching?
Yeah, you know, I was keeping my eyes on these banks today. I will say, I'm noticing that Bank of America and Goldman Sachs are just slowly climbing up my watch list. It looks like JP Morgan is doing well also, but they're just moving a little bit slower. Goldman Sachs is starting to really come up today. I really like the move with Bank of America. This one is more explosive than the other ones, at least what I'm seeing so far. Wells Fargo also looks pretty explosive. So these banks are roaring back to life. I will say, Mike, just like what we talked about at the beginning of the week, you know, a lot of these stocks have been flying up lately, even the bank stocks, and we might have seen a couple of days of consolidation. So on Wednesday and Thursday, these bank stocks started falling off and just holding their ground, but today they're starting to roar back to life. So maybe we'll see a renewed uptrend with these stocks, especially as with the rest of the market starting to move up.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. How have like Bank of America and like JP Morgan been doing over like the past year in terms of like price action and things like that?
Yeah, as far as the past year, they've done pretty good, to be honest. I will say it. On the chart here, I have the 1-year daily pulled up, so we're not going back any further than 1 year. But from a year ago, you know, Bank of America was sitting around $36 to $37, and I will say they've held this support very well, and they've had some pretty good moves. You know, they ran up to $50. Obviously, over the past 3 months or so, they've fallen back off, as a lot of stocks have, but I will say they're recovering up nice, and they've been holding these supports, like I said, down around 36 and 37 very well. So I would say, Mike, it looks pretty strong and steady. You know, it's definitely moving back to the upside. It's been on a strong uptrend. Like I said, though, obviously the past couple months it's been down, but overall for the past year, it's definitely done pretty well.
Awesome. All right, and then we have Carlos saying, thoughts on a good non-tech / EV stock. I want to really diversify my portfolio. So initially when you asked this question, I first thought of XLU, Tom. It's pretty good for diversification. XLU is an utilities ETF. So one, it fits your criteria. It does not have to do with electric vehicles. Does not have to do with tech, really. It's just utilities ETF. And this industry historically has done very, very well over time. Like, Tom, let's pull up like a max weekly chart of this thing. Like, it's very consistent. It's an ETF, so you get a bunch of stocks all under one ticker. It's a pretty solid ETF for diversification. We can just see over the years, like obviously, like it doesn't move like Tesla or Apple or Nvidia, but it does offer that stability.
Yeah, it definitely does. I think that'll be a pretty good stock to hold, Mike. And, some of these utilities have been blasting off. I've been seeing a lot of these companies doing very, very well. So I'm glad to see that this ticker's moving up. I don't know their exact holdings, but hey, I will say it's looking pretty good here, Mike. It's performing well. And it is kind of high right now. It's at these highs, but to be honest, it looks like it's kind of breaking out. So hopefully we see this one continue to move up. I think it definitely looks like a pretty solid ETF, Mike. And you know what? Lately, it's been pretty hard to get into some plays that aren't considered tech. It seems like everything now is considered tech, whether you're looking at cybersecurity or social media or what have you. But this one definitely looks like a pretty solid ETF. Mike, as far as like stocks I would think of, I'm thinking more of stuff like Coca-Cola, stocks like maybe like Kraft Heinz, stocks like that, maybe some like commodity plays and stuff like that with like GLD to maybe combat inflation. But it's kind of difficult to find plays that don't involve tech anymore.
Yeah, that is true. Like I feel like everything involves tech, like in one way or another. Like it's like the world's so like interconnected now, and it's just like technology is such a giant part of our lives. Where I feel like just like everything has at least a little bit of tech in it, but I definitely know what you mean, Tom, and I don't think it's a bad idea, like how you suggested, like KO or even like gold with GLD. That can be pretty big. Especially with inflation on the rise. Just like you said, GLD is not bad. Like even though it's not a stock, it's an ETF, and historically it's been a good asset to own, especially compared to inflation.
Yeah, definitely. And if we see these tech stocks start to tank off or something like that, who knows? We might see GLD start to pop back up even more. So that would definitely be helpful to have them in the portfolio for the longer term. But, even for the long term, like gold generally performs pretty well. Like GLD on the max weekly chart, of course, it dips down sometimes like it did in 2012 to 2016 before going back on the uptrend. But still, I mean, it's done pretty well historically. And as we know, gold is a pretty safe asset to own. Like a lot of countries own it and they hold it as well. It's not like these countries just unload their gold stockpiles or anything like that. So that's good to see. But yeah, I mean, today, Mike, lots of stocks are still like splitting my watch list 50-50. I'm trying to think of some other plays that aren't necessarily tech. Like, would you consider these airlines tech plays, Mike? Because I know that like that ETF Jets is looking pretty promising right now. Like I've been eyeing this one up as it's been on the downtrend, and it definitely seems like it's flying back well now. I don't know, it's hard because I would consider airlines tech, but I'm not sure if you would or if whoever asked the question would. But I think the airlines are definitely another sector to eye up.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, just because like obviously they have a lot to do with tech. It's just like, I don't know. I just wouldn't.
Yeah, it's like they use a lot of tech for like their radar systems, obviously, and stuff like that. So that's where I'm sitting there like it's a tech company, but at the same time they're offering services to people by like taking them places. So I would say, yeah, I guess I'm with you, Mike. It's kind of like it's not tech, but
yeah,
hey, it's another good sector to look at. So that's a good ETF.
Right. Like obviously, like they use a lot of technology to make their entire business efficient and keep everything running smoothly. But I definitely would not like classify like Delta Airlines as like a tech company. But yeah, I mean, either way, I do agree with you in the sense that the setup's looking pretty decent. Are you concerned at all about how quickly these stocks rebounded over like the past 2 weeks?
Yeah, I definitely am. Like if we go back in the past and we look at some of these big uptrends, like even on just the Jets ETF alone, like let's just look at this one alone. You can see even over the past couple of months, even Mike, like Jets had lows of like 1963, ran all the way up to highs of like $23 within just a couple of weeks there. And that's a nice 20% pop. And then you can see Jets started falling right back over. Even whenever Jets was going on a major uptrend, it went from lows of like $21.20 to highs of $29 in just a few weeks, and then started falling right back over. So I would definitely say be careful. These stocks are back on the uptrend, which is great, but you're running up into a lot of resistances. And like Mike said, you're up a lot over the past couple weeks alone. Like right now, we're sitting at like 24%. So that's pretty big. I'm definitely going to be looking for a bit of a pullback here, Mike. Like maybe I'll be looking to buy Jets at like $20 or maybe down there around like that 1950 support. But I will say, like with a lot of stocks going back on the uptrend, if the uptrend is truly here and we do continue to see it rip, it's obviously going to be bad to miss this buying opportunity. So I would say like with Jets, it's not up enough that it's like that I'm overly worried. So I would start to average in here a little bit, but I definitely wouldn't be going all in by any means.
Yep. Alrighty. And on another note, I'm looking at some other like setups right now. Like obviously we have like Facebook and Apple continuing to run. But like you said earlier in the stream, it looks like Bank of America and some of these other financial stocks are not looking too bad. And I feel like these stocks don't really have too much hype, like of course everyone always talks about Apple going up or Tesla or Nvidia or things like that, but sometimes these financial stocks can have some really good moves.
Yeah, they really can. And I actually wanted to hit on something earlier, Mike, because I know that we switched topics pretty quickly there, but I was looking at Bank of America on the 1-year daily chart, and I was saying, hey, these bank stocks were looking pretty good, consolidating, nice uptrend. But if we look at JP Morgan on the daily chart, over the past year, they're actually down right now. So keep that in mind. Some bank stocks are doing better than others right now. And, obviously Bank of America might be a little bit more volatile. So they've been recovering up better. But I just wanted to point that out in case everybody, went and checked it out. And then they were like, hey, the bank stocks aren't really up. It just depends on which one you're looking at. JP Morgan hasn't been holding up as well as Bank of America. Although I will say, Mike, like JP Morgan, I like it better than Bank of America. So it just, obviously every stock moves differently, but I'm glad to see them moving back up. And you're definitely right. JP Morgan is even keeping the uptrend today. Still moving well so far this morning, along with Wells Fargo. Both are doing pretty well.
There we go. Alrighty. And then how's Boeing doing too? Because, sorry, that's just another one that just popped right to the top 3 in my watch list, and I figured we'd take a look at it.
Yeah, this one's up here as well with mine too. And yeah, it's definitely looking good today. It's almost up to that 192 resistance again. We had a lot of resistance around 192 to the high was like 192.80. So almost 193, you could say. A lot of resistance there. We've seen multiple rejections over the past week at that level. So definitely be careful as we're rising. But it's definitely exploding up today, Mike, in a pretty nice way. Coming up very nicely. And I'm glad to see this. I was really worried about Boeing on Monday whenever we saw that plane crash news come out of China. I honestly haven't been seeing too many headlines with it so far, but we'll have to see what happens. I definitely am going to be reading some more articles about it. There is some more stuff that came out this morning, so that's good to see. It's just there's so much information regarding this crash right now. But hey, I'm glad to see that Boeing's holding up well, Mike, because given what we saw on Monday, I wouldn't have been surprised if they were at like 160 or something right now. So I'm really glad they held up.
Yeah, awesome. All right, then we have Raymond saying bull or bear. It depends on what ticker we're talking about. For me, looking at a lot of these big tech stocks, I am more to the bearish side than the bullish side because of how quickly they recovered back up. I made a video yesterday going over like some of like the most popular stocks right now and why it's very important to be aware of what's actually happening. When you have Tesla and Apple up in an insane amount over 8 or 9 trading days, just like most of the time in these situations, the stocks pull back. So I'm definitely more towards the bearish side, but it's more in the sense that because the stocks are overbought, it's not because like I think Apple's going to crash down to $100 a share.
Yeah, and I feel the same exact way. Like I don't see any big crashes coming out of these stocks either. And so far today, like Facebook is still running to the upside. So these stocks can definitely continue up with some good momentum. And like I would say, if you guys were looking to play these stocks up, I would just do quick in and out day trades. Maybe try to catch some quick momentum, kind of like Facebook here at market open. You might have been able to see that breakout at 222 and maybe hop in for like a nice 5 or 10 minute play. I've been seeing a lot of plays lately, Mike. You can make a quick 10, 15% within just a few minutes if you catch them at the right time, especially with this crazy movement. So That would be the way I would play it. That way, if it does start to come down, you can just exit really quickly and not really have any regrets about it. But yeah, I mean, they're starting to really fly up, Mike, and I definitely feel what you mean. Like, I could see a pullback definitely coming in at some point, especially like with Facebook and some of these stocks that just keep running. Today, I will say, Mike, like a lot of stocks are pulling back. Like, I'm looking at my watch list and I'm seeing a lot of these EV companies like Lucid's pulling back, Zoom's starting to pull back a little bit. We have Square coming down, RUN is actually pulling back. So while we do have a lot of stocks in the green, I will say a lot of them are also in the red pretty deep. But Mike, I did want to bring up one stock really quickly because it's continuing to fly is AMC. It's now at 5%. We're approaching that high of yesterday, and I'm curious to see how high AMC can get today, Mike. I know that we're seeing the marijuana stocks fly up. We're seeing AMC fly up. So a lot of these hype plays are moving.
Here we go. Awesome. And then Alex just said, awesome Facebook call out, Tom. 100% on the 0 date expiration option. So let's go.
Yeah, that's awesome. Facebook did great here. I'm glad it popped up. Once we broke out above 222, it just made for a really nice run to the upside. So really glad to see him catching that play there. And man, just like look at Facebook on the 1 year daily. It's looking so good right now, Mike. I know that it's definitely scary because it's moving up a lot from the lows, but sometimes whenever we see these stocks recover, they sometimes make a weird like V-shaped pattern, kind of like what we saw with COVID, Mike. Like, let's go back to look at COVID on the max daily chart. You know, you can see how much COVID really recovered up there. Be careful because there was a lot of red days and pullbacks sprinkled in, but I just wanted to point this out because COVID just really made these stocks explode up. I'm not saying that this is going to happen again in the same way, but I mean, we have a long way to go to fill this gap, and so far it's moving in a good way.
Yeah, true that. All right, and then George also mentioned GME and how it's going, Tom. So yeah, we can't forget about GME.
Honestly, GME looks even better. Like AMC is still approaching their high of this week around 22.35, but GME is breaking the high of this week. They're moving above 150 up to 155 now. These stocks are getting explosive, Mike. Let's look at like the 1 year daily chart. You can see GameStop is starting to come up a lot off of its lows. So definitely cool to watch. And hey, for anybody still holding, I'm really happy that it's moving up for you. I hope it continues. You know, I'm not sure that we're going to see the $500 per share that everybody was still saying that we would, but hey, at least we're seeing some nice upwards movement here. I think we could maybe see AMC come up over the next couple weeks and maybe retest this $30 resistance. That's a big resistance, and I will say that we're far away from that, so we have a long way to go, but I would say that's pretty realistic, $30. You know, be careful, guys. If you guys are still seeing people shouting out $500 and stuff like that, just be very, very wary. You know, obviously, I think a lot of people learn their lesson the first time, but I just wanted to say, be careful because, you know, don't make the same mistake twice, especially if you played them in the past.
Yeah, no doubt. And then we have Alex saying, thoughts on BLNK for a swing play. So I'm not a huge fan of this one for two reasons. And the main reason would be the lack of momentum with this one. This stock normally moves when it has like a nice catalyst, when it has good earnings, when it has highly anticipated news, anything like that. And right now, even though it had like a decent uptrend over the past couple trading days, it doesn't have that amazing momentum. And because it's lacking that, that's why I don't love it right now. And then the second major concern that I have is that in the past, I think 8 trading days, this stock is up like 38, or it went as high as 38% from lows in 8 trading days. So like that's a significant increase, and I just feel like, sure, it can pop, but is it worth the risk? And for me, it's not, because of how much it popped up and because of the lack of momentum. Like, it'd be different if, you know, everyone was talking about BLNK right now, but I'm just not seeing that.
Yeah, and personally, I think BLNK will be pretty good. I like it, and you know, if we continue to go on this nice uptrend and we keep seeing all these growth plays moving up still, I think that Blnk will do very, very well. It just depends on if these growth stocks continue. You know, like I personally feel like it's a little bit overextended. Like you said, it's up 38% or something close over these past 8 trading days. So Personally, I think that it's consolidating a lot at 25. If it does start pulling back, I'll definitely be eyeing up a longer term position with shares. But I've been seeing some pretty good news come across with Blink. They're going to be supplying GM with some charging stations in the US and Canada, which is good news for them there. But I will say at the same time, they still have a long way to go. Their last earnings report wasn't the best, and they started also falling off to the downside. So that was not good to see there. I will say, though, for the long term, I like their company. It's just kind of like what Mike said. You have to buy in at the right time. And like he said, we're also not seeing any hype with them. Like lately, we've been seeing stocks have a lot of hype, like these marijuana stocks, for example. Like they're beaten down and they're running up with a lot of momentum. But BLNK, it's been running, but it hasn't been running too much. You can see even this week, Mike, like it's been running, but you can see it's been kind of just consolidating a lot, like right around $27, whereas we're seeing stocks like ChargePoint, for example, continue to break out. So that's why I don't like it either. But I will say, Mike, like for the long term, I really do like Blink, and I like how they're making deals with companies like GM. I think that'll be pretty big for them, and that'll help boost their revenue over the next couple of years, hopefully.
Gotcha. So just to clarify, so for the short-term swing, what's your opinion on it? And then, let's say for the long term, what's your opinion on it?
Yeah, like long-term swing, as in like a hold for like 1 to 2 years, I really, really like it. Short-term swing, I don't think I'd even touch it. If it did start moving up in the short term and it passed above 27.80 or it started breaking out up above 28, I think it can make for some good shorter-term plays. But as far as swings right now to hold maybe for the next couple weeks, I definitely would not do that either. I really feel like, Mike, kind of like what you said, we might see a bit of a pullback with how much stocks have been flying up lately. Even on these stocks I love, like Facebook, I think we might see a pullback soon. So that's my main concern there for the shorter term swing.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff. And good question, Alex. And then we have Iranical saying, Neo, rest in peace. Thoughts on selling a put on Neo? It's not bad. If you are open to holding shares of Neo, it's not bad. If you are looking to sell puts on like safe, slow, and steady stocks, then you would not want to sell a put on Neo. But, like I said, as long as you're open to owning Neo shares, it's not bad. IV is kind of high. It's not as high as it's been, it's not as high as it was last week or 2 weeks ago, but still, it's pretty high. The stock's falling, which is good for short puts. It's not bad. Like right now, if you went to let's say we went to the April expiration, you could sell the 16 strike put and get like $40, which is decent, even if you went to like the 18 put, you would get around like 90. So it's like the premiums are pretty decent, and keep in mind that like if you were to sell the 18 strike put, that's only an 1800 collateral, or even like the 16 put, that's only 1600 in collateral, which is one of the lowest you can find in the market.
Yeah, that's pretty low actually, Mike. And what were the premiums on this one again? Like for like let's just say he shorted like the 16 strike. Like what were the premiums on that?
So the 16 strike for April 14th would be around $40, which I know it's not the largest amount dollar amount wise, but it's only 1600 in collateral, which is really low.
Yeah, it is, and $40 isn't bad to grab a stock all the way down at $16. So that's not too big of a risk there, in my opinion, Mike. And it doesn't look too bad. And I will say, Neo from the low to the high, Mike, was up like 76% or 75%. So talk about stocks rising a lot lately, and we just have to expect a pullback. So with those earnings, I mean, I'm not surprised it's coming back to the downside at all. Even without the earnings coming out, Mike, I feel like Neo might have taken a bit of a downturn. So I don't feel like the earnings are terrible, and I have to read into them more, but I really hope this stock recovers. I really like it in that EV sector, and I know it's another China play, so you have to be a little careful with it, but I will say I like it for the long term as long as these numbers are continuing to get better. Like we've been seeing a lot of bad production numbers coming out of these EV companies, so I read some good stuff, but given the movement so far, I have a bad feeling that they're going to come out with some pretty bad outlooks here.
Yeah, we will see. We will see. Looking at some of the breakouts right now, it looks like AMD is actually trading pretty close to its low of day. It's down around 1.5%, and it totally reversed. So keep an eye on this one.
Yeah, talk about a fake out today, Mike. Like, could you imagine everyone playing AMD to the upside today? It broke above that high of yesterday. It started breaking that resistance today and then just tanks right back off. So it's always good to be careful and be wary of things going against you guys. And hey, if you traded this one up today, hopefully you cut fast because man, this one turned around. But yeah, it's definitely moving down now, Mike. And like we've been talking about, these tech stocks are getting overextended. At some point, we're going to see a move down, and maybe this is the start of it, but maybe it's not. But either way, you have to be ready for moves like this because when you're up so much, these moves can happen anytime. And I think AMD is starting to show people today that that might be the case here. But yeah, AMD is starting to turn over. I wonder how NVIDIA is looking. Yeah, NVIDIA is also turning over, Mike, starting to test that low of, I should say that intraday support of yesterday, right around 275.50. Definitely some bounces around there so far. And it looks like Intel today, it started pulling back, but Intel's actually holding its ground well. So that's good to see. I will say though, Intel's had some pretty good news the past week.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about Intel. You beat me to it, but that is interesting. While we have a lot of other, tech stocks and even chip stocks turning lower, Intel, not only is it at basically break even for the day, but it's actually trending higher by the minute.
Yeah, it is. And who knows, maybe over the next hour or so, Intel will break out to new weekly highs. Like if we're able to break above $52, it would make for a pretty nice move with Intel. And I will say they've had some amazing, amazing news this week. Like we normally never see big companies that are in the tech sector have good news like this. So NVIDIA came out and they pretty much said that they're looking to use Intel as a foundry for their chips. So that's going to be big. If Intel starts producing chips for NVIDIA, obviously that's going to be huge. Both companies are competitors to AMD. So NVIDIA is competitors to AMD in the graphics card market, and Intel is competitors to AMD in the CPU market. And AMD makes both graphics cards and CPUs. So looking at it, if these two companies get together and start working together, or if something bigger happens with like a partnership or something, that would be huge. And I'm really happy to see that NVIDIA's CEO also said that the way Intel has been recovering lately has been pleasant, and he has liked the way that they've been kind of weathering the storm. So that's good to see. And I'm glad that both companies are moving up well today. But yeah, Intel's definitely outperforming. And I'm glad that this good news is starting to come across the board because it's been a long time since Intel's had any renewed hype. And I have a weird feeling, Mike, that over the next year, I think Intel might start to really prove people wrong here.
Yeah, let's see. All right, and cycling back through some of my watch list plays, we're definitely seeing some increased selling pressure today with a lot of these tech stocks and even like growth plays. Zoom's falling lower, DraftKings, Disney a little bit, Square, Palantir, stuff like that. Of course, Neo, but yeah, Tom, I mean, it looks definitely like one of those red days, but we've been talking about this all week. Like we've been kind of talking about this pullback since at least like Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm going to be realistic, guys. Like, we've been expecting this pullback for a while, and you should honestly be eyeing up some plays to the downside. Like, look at Zoom here. It's kind of straddling its 114 support, and hey, we love Zoom for the long term. If you want to get shares for the long term, go ahead and grab some and hold it. But for shorter term, quicker trades, we definitely have to be wary of these pullbacks because whenever we see stocks move up like Zoom, you just have to expect moves back down. And we're definitely seeing that happen here today, Mike. We're actually just about to break. We're breaking below 114 right now. So we'll have to see how low this one can get. Be a little wary because earlier in the week, Zoom fell below 114 and touched around 113.35 before rising back. So there is some support to look for. But yeah, they're definitely selling off, Mike. And my watch list is slowly going more in the red. We actually have XPEV down 7%, almost as much as Neo. I know they're really close in that Chinese market, but even big stocks like Matterport, Mike, like look at them today, pretty much just straight down all morning. This is pretty insane to see. Unity has been moving the same way, along with RUN, which I mentioned earlier. Even like one of our favorites, Mike, Enphase, all morning has been straight down. But keep in mind, guys, this is just normal price action. This doesn't mean that these stocks are crashing and burning. Just keep in mind, stocks like Enphase are moving from lows of 115 all the way up to $200 over the past couple months. Like, we just have to expect some type of slowdown soon. And since we got to this major resistance on end phase, Mike, right around $200, this might actually make for a pretty good maybe play to the downside over the next couple days.
Yeah, we'll see. Now, I would say it would be smarter to go through like a credit spread rather than buying puts on these due to like just because of the risk reward. Like, if you look at these setups, like a lot of these IVs are still pretty high, and then at least with the credit spreads, it's like you're literally just betting that the stock's going to slow down, and if it falls, you make money. If it stays the same, you make money. If it rises a little bit, you make money. But with the puts, it's like you need like a decent move to the downside, and I'd figure that, or I think that we both agree on this. Let me know if I'm wrong, but I'm not expecting like a giant pullback with a lot of these stocks that are overbought. To the extent where puts would like print. I'm just more expecting like a reasonable profit-taking scenario. You know what I mean? And that's why I think like a call credit spread would be ideal in this situation because of, one, the movement that's expected, but also just the pricing and risk-reward with these options.
Yeah, like I think if you're going to hold it till expiration or something, those credit spreads are definitely better. But if you're going to do like shorter-term plays, I will say like if you were able to see end phase hitting that $200 resistance and you were able to get in maybe at a good time, kind of like if you were able to enter around like 195 or something like that, I think it would make for a really good play with just straight up puts to the downside. But I definitely agree that like a credit spread would definitely be a safer way to go. And obviously, like if you're going to hold this for like 4 days or 5 days or something, then that's definitely the way to go. But if you're trying to just play quick in and out day trades or something, then I think that just straight up puts would be the way to go. But either way, Mike, I mean, I think that both might work out well here, just depending on how big the pullbacks are. I will say though, like in end phase's case, from the low to the high here, let's get the exact number. It ran up about like 75%. So now that it's up 75%, around like 199, it like I, for example, could maybe see like a 10% pullback, maybe like a 15% pullback down around to like that 170 support. Maybe we'll also come around like 180, which would be more like a 10% pullback, like I mentioned. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely with you. I think the credit spread would definitely be safer, of course. And if I was going to trade it, that's probably what I would do. I just know that so many viewers, they just don't ever look at spreads and stuff. So it's really good to look at spreads, guys. Like if you guys aren't into them yet, definitely get into them. Honestly, just ask a couple guys in Discord like Cornish. I mean, Cornish has been killing it with spreads lately ever since he got into them. So definitely look into them. I'm not saying that they're bad, but definitely I do feel like though that for the next couple days, some quick day trades with puts would be good.
Yeah, spreads are a useful tool. They allow you to be more specific in your, like, I guess you could say prediction or like game plan. Because like sometimes you could think, like sometimes you could feel a certain way about a stock. And if you don't know how to fully utilize spreads, sometimes just buying calls or puts or even shares doesn't get the job done the right way. You know what I mean? So spreads are definitely very useful. And I know they are pretty complicated in the beginning, but once you do like a couple spreads, they kind of like all make sense. But yeah, they're definitely a really useful tool, and there's like an unlimited way to customize which spreads you're doing. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it really is. Like there's so many different stuff you can do. And Mike, like some of them are hilarious. Like what are some of these funny names here? Like three-legged butterflies and like, like there's some crazy ones out there. Like, like some like condors. Like I know there's iron condors, but there's even like crazier names that I've seen for some of these. But yeah, and it's definitely interesting. Like you said, Mike, you can do anything you want. Like if you want to make a play that implied volatility is going to go down, you can do that. If you want to make a play saying, hey, I think end phase is going to stay between 200 and 180, you can do that too. So there's a whole bunch of stuff you can get into. And I'll be honest, Mike, we've done pretty well on some of our spreads in the past when we call them out. But yeah, definitely look at that, guys. I think that'll definitely be a nice way to go with maybe like a nice credit spread or something like that. Definitely could be good here if end phase keeps consolidating. Definitely also look at some of those like in and out day trades and stuff. I think those could also work. But yeah, kind of looking at some other plays, Mike, like Unity is also straight down today. I hate to see this because a lot of these metaverse plays are really giving back their gains, like Roblox, Unity, and stocks like that. So we're definitely seeing a lot of increased pressure today to the downside. Even some of these plays like Beyond Meat are down, Teladoc's down, Penn Gaming is down. So we're seeing a pretty big pullback across the board. Of course, we're seeing like bank stocks do well and a couple of individual tech plays like Facebook. But other than those, there's not too much crazy movement today.
Yeah, true that. And then I have to go back to that spread comment really quickly. So for the weird names, of course, we have, Iron Condor, stuff like that. Hunter mentioned a Jade Lizard, but I've even also heard some spreads called like Christmas tree spreads, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, there's so many different spreads out there. And like, honestly, you can just go to the options chain right now, pick any combination you want, and just name it whatever you want for the most part. Like, there's a lot of names out there that are already taken, but like a lot of these like names like the Christmas tree spread and stuff like that, like, and even the Jade Lizard, like, they're just like kind of like, I don't want to say made up, but they're like coined by people. You know what I mean? So either way,
it's just a name that someone made. It doesn't mean that you're, trading a lizard or anything like that.
Oh, of course.
I'm sure some people that are newer, Mike, are probably pretty confused by these names. Honestly, in the beginning, I kind of was.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are so weird. Some of these like names for the spreads, it's like Jade Lizard. What? Let's see.
Yeah, it's really funny. I even see one called like a jelly roll and stuff, apparently on some weird type of forums and stuff. But yeah, there's some crazy names for them, and they're definitely funny, guys. And I will say, like, sometimes that type of funny stuff might help people get into it a little bit more. Like, I know that spreads can seem really complicated, but hey, try to make it a little bit funny. Maybe try to coin your own term if you start, selling and buying your own calls. And you don't always have to, Mike, like, you can go buy the predetermined spread, but you can also like make your own spreads and do stuff like that. So it's really cool to do. And it's definitely something nice to look into. And if anyone in here is interested in it, definitely let us know in the Discord. We've made a lot of great courses for this lately. Mike, I know you made that awesome advanced options course where you go over everything you look at. And man, that is really a good course. So if anyone's looking to sell options, that's definitely the way to go there.
Here we go. Yeah. And then, Tom, I'm looking into this long jelly roll spread right now on Investopedia. I've never heard of this, but it seems interesting. It looks like it's like a mix of calendar spreads or something like that. It looks kind of weird. So
I'm just glad it was real because I saw it on a forum and I thought maybe I was capping for a second. But I'm glad it's real.
My gosh. Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's like a short straddle, and then you like long another straddle with more time that has different strikes. I don't know. This is weird. I'm gonna look into this more. I actually
just found a big list of a few of them. So you see, there's like some bull condors, like a bull call ladder spread, a bull butterfly. I scrolled down here. They don't have the jelly roll on here, sadly, but they have like some strip straddles. Like, I've never heard of that one before. They have a whole bunch, but yeah, there's definitely some hilarious ones. And man, that jelly roll is definitely sounding hilarious. That's making me laugh. It sounds like who came up with that one, Mike? Like Peter Griffin? Like what's going on?
It's true. Oh gosh. Yeah, I mean, that's the main thing for today. I mean, Tom, I think we basically covered everything. We had a good time. I don't know, do you have anything we might have missed?
I will say I'm definitely going to eye up that SPY again today. It seems like the SPY keeps having these end of days pushes back to the upside. So if we do see the SPY break out today above the high of day, I hope that we see a nice move back up. I will say, though, be wary of the pullback today. Yesterday was pretty explosive, and I kind of expected the market to slow down. So maybe we'll go against my thinking and the market will keep ripping. But as far as today goes, Mike, we're seeing some pretty big pullbacks in the market. Even some of these big chip plays, like we mentioned earlier on, like NVIDIA, started really pulling back this morning. FSLR is pulling back. Enphase is coming back to the downside. Looks like I can't type right now, but yeah, that's definitely coming back down. And a lot of stocks are in the red. So I just want to say, be a little bit wary. I hope the uptrend continues, but you always have to be careful. It's always best to look at the market objectively rather than subjectively. So hopefully we continue to see some nice price action today. But as far as stocks moving today, Mike, so far the airlines are really leading the way on my watch list. They are pulling back now, of course, but along with these bank plays, and actually Bank of America just now broke out above its daily high. So we're continuing to see some nice moves out of banks at least.
There we go. Well, thank you guys so much for joining today's stream. Before we end it, I want to give a giant shout out to every single one of you who joined today. So thank you so much, Keisha, Carlos, Vicky, George, Hunter, Bill, Raymond, Alex, Iranical, Sean, and Hunter. And I think that's everyone. So thank you guys so much for joining. Be prepared for more volatility with a lot of these stocks, especially these cannabis stocks. There's definitely a lot of hype building with them. So again, thank you guys so much for joining, and have a great rest of your day.